Okay. Good morning, folks. L'chaim, l'chaim v'bracha. Already made my bracha. Okay, so continuing with the mimer. So the Pikeach, the smart one, who's choosing the king, is choosing the king at this point in the conversation. Remember, because the ministers are interchangeable, king is their impermanence. And we said because the smart one is ready to give up on having much in order to have from the inner will of the king to be um, truly connected to the king. I actually have a beautiful story that brings this idea. I've told the story before, but I think it really, a true story, actually, in Florida. Um, a very wealthy man was divorcing his wife, wasn't pretty, and after some time, or whenever, he meets another woman, and he calls in his son one day, who didn't seem like got along with this new woman in his life, and he calls him in and says, "Yeah, I've got a car downstairs for you. Here's two credit cards that are up to $25,000 each that you can use, and here's a wallet with $50,000. But it's all," and he gives to him, and he says, "But a condition: we can't meet here in this apartment, in this condo. Starting a new life, and I'll reach out to you. Don't reach out to me. I'll take care of you." But so the son takes the wallet and he throws it back to his father. Says, "I don't need your money. I need a father." Unfortunately, it's a true story. So others choose, the wallet, the car, credit cards. Those are the three that come with the king, right? Uh, the ministers, the dukes. The smart one says, I need a father. I want the king. I want God. I want to have not an external relationship. I want to have an internal, real relationship, which vis-a-vis God means to get the vitality from God's holiness, his kedusha, be connected in such a manner rather than getting it from a place of death, meaning klipa, klipa, right? The shell that covers over. And that's what it means that they're interchangeable, because to take from outside of God is klipa. I, sorry, even klipa comes from God, but it's external will. It's a means to an end, right? Money is a means to an end. The car is a means to an end. The credit card is a means to an end. I need a father is not a means to an end. It's an end in itself. I need a father for, because I need a father. Well, why? Isn't it so you can have the credit card? No, no, no. That's an end in itself. That's holiness. It comes from God. The relationship itself. That's what the Pikeach wants. The smart one wants. That's what the Jewish people will put aside having more in life to having less, because that's permanent. A father's permanent. Money comes and goes. Yeah, sad story, but again, we're important. It's a metaphor. It's a true story, but we're using it as a metaphor to understand the point over here. Now, says based on this, that whatever you want to say, still need to understand that seemingly the choice that the smart one is making in the king, uh, okay, it's not for the benefit, not for the benefit, as we learned actually earlier, because benefit would be, well, I want a father because then if I have a father, oh, I'm going to inherit from him. He's an older man now. I'll inherit from him in the end a lot more than what he's giving me right now. That's rational. That's for my benefit. So we discounted that already, that idea, right? So he's not doing it because he wants the king, or then this story over here, he wanted his father for a benefit. But on the other hand, it's still something, the virtue, there's a virtue in the king. There's a value in it, in having a father, right? Therefore, okay, I'm ready to give up that money, the extras, right? In choosing the king, well, that is then, there is a rationale to that, right? But we said that the fact that the ministers are interchangeable, the king is not interchangeable, and therefore it's fitting to give up on the greater things in life that you would get if it would be through the ministers, right? And choose the less that you're getting from the king. But remember that our medrash, and we're studying Torah over here, so we're basing ourselves on the Torah teachings of the medrash. The medrash connects it that I choose the king with the verse in Lamentations that Chelki Avaya Amra Nafshi, God is my portion, right? I choose the king because my soul so declares, right? Remember that, which sounds like the Jewish people are choosing God, not, they're choosing it from one's soul that's beyond rationale and intelligence. But the way we've explained it now, well, there's an intelligence here. It's not beyond rationale. In other words, in the story where the son throws the wallet at his father, says, I don't need your money, I need a father. Well, we get that. No, that's a rational understanding that, you know, not necessarily is an expression, not necessarily, it could be, but not necessarily it's an expression of the depths of your soul. It's just, yeah. Uh, so when choosing the king, or that we choose God, because in the end, God is God, right? So not because we're having benefit, right? But there's a rationality over here. that, it kind of makes sense. Okay, so what's the explanation? We need a deeper explanation then. Deeper explanation is as follows. Human intelligence is on its own stead, just your intelligence, right? Forget about your heart, your feelings, just intelligence on its own, right? It compels you to want things that are good for you. That's the nature of intelligence. It's good for you. You want it. Okay. That kind of makes sense, right? So, so that which the nations of the world choose in the ministers, even though, think about it for a moment, they not stupid, right? They understand that the king is the main thing, right? He's the main deal, right? So then, like, they understand that the king is permanent and the ministers, you might develop a relationship with the minister, but he may be gone tomorrow, right? They're interchangeable. They're not there permanent. The king is, again, in the metaphor, obvious. Obviously there can be a coup and the king can be taken over by those ministers. So that's then, of course, taking a metaphor and using it not as a metaphor, right? So, so the nations of the world. So why are they? Why are they not choosing the king? Is because they are what we call a yesh. Very simple. They don't want to give up on some benefit that they can have. If they can have benefit, right, this is the human condition. So the nations of the world, based on the human condition, will not give up on a benefit that you can have in life. Well, from the ministers, they're going to have greater benefit. You imagine you're a farmer and the agricultural minister comes into town. Hey, he's the one who directly dealing with your stuff. Have a relationship with the king, you know, might be hard to have one. It might take a long time. There's a more, a benefit, immediate benefits you're going to have from the minister. So the fact that the Jewish people, okay, why aren't they doing that themselves? Because they have a recognition that one has to give up on benefit, not seek self fulfillment, not seek um, uh, benefit, and put aside their mitzias, put aside the, hey, what I want in order to choose the king. Mm. Such a choice cannot come from your intelligence. Because, as we said, intelligence by nature, right? Think about intelligence thinks of things by cause and effect. Hmm. What will happen if I do this? What will be the effect? And if I did it another way, what will that be? What will that, right? That's rationality of the mind. Right? That's what intelligence does. You're weighing the pros and the cons. Okay, and I'm not saying anything against this. That's the nature of it. So if we were based on intelligence, we would choose that which is beneficial for us, which is, hey, the way of life, but not the Jew. The Jew puts that aside and chooses from their neshama. Choice in godliness is an essential choice that's beyond rationale. It's not a choice because of the virtue, the greatness of godliness, right? That, I mean, in other words, God is permanent and the others are not. We say that. Um, it's only after we make the choice, which is a soul thing, not a rationale. That after we made that choice, because our soul kind of nudges us, knocks, called daidi daifik, right? The voice of my beloved is knocking. Only that's where the choice is coming from. In others, beyond rationale, from the neshama, from the soul. But it then becomes internalized in your intelligence. It filters into your intelligence. That your intelligence also recognizes that since godliness is the truth, it is eternal, right? The king isn't interchangeable. God is eternal. Therefore, you have to put aside your mitzias, your being, the things you want out of life in order to choose godliness. Wow, it's very powerful, very powerful. So we're choosing godliness essentially because of our soul, beyond rationale, beyond reason, beyond to soul think. It then filters into our reasoning. After all, our intelligence is a component of the soul. It's not the soul. It's not the definition of soul. It's a it emerges. Our intelligence emerges from the soul. So now it filters into the soul that we have a recognition that I should put aside myself, right? In other words, what we're saying here is the relationship is more important than what you get out of the relationship. That's not the way of the world. 54% divorce rate. Why? Because what I get out of the relationship is more important than the relationship. That's the way of the world. That's not the Jewish way. not the Jewish way. That doesn't mean a Jew can also choose the ministers, right? Obviously, yeah, but it's just not the Jewish way. All right, we'll see you soon.